The most frightening battlefield of the Vietnam War was 15 metres underground. And here, a small group of Australians might have altered the course of the war.
I opened the trapdoor. I said, well, let's get out of here.
Had they not been ordered to withdraw, they would have discovered the southern headquarters of the Viet Cong. It was the biggest operation of the war so far. Helicopters, tanks, armoured personnel carriers, 8,000 Americans, and a contingent of Australians, which included a company of engineers led by a 25-year-old captain, Sandy MacGregor.
When we were landing, we were actually mortared, either mortared or shelled. The Air Force were called in, there were helicopter gunships were called in, and there was quite a deal going on the ground. Just the minute we landed, we knew there was something up.
As the political commissar for the Saigon region, Tran Bach Dang had an even higher price on his head. He had escaped the Australians by a matter of minutes.
Vì rằng là khi như tôi nói là sau đó họ cũng ở giữa đồng. Tôi thì đi theo địa đạo lên một khúc.
Mr. Dang, you were the political commissar for the Saigon Jardin area back in 1966.
Và thưa ông là giữ nhiệm vụ chính trị của cái khu vực Sài Gòn Gia Định vào năm 1966. Có đúng không ạ?
Tôi xuống đây thì cái thời kỳ sau tôi xuống đây là 65 không phải 66.
What can you tell me of the tunnel search methods of the American and the Australian soldiers?
Và ông có thể nói cho tôi biết về cái cách.
I understand from my experience working with Americans and Australians that the Americans we worked with did not go down the tunnels. They blew up the entrances and couldn't go down. That we were, Australia, were the first to actually go down because we didn't blow up the entrance. Mr. Dang, you are a historian. If you could rewrite the history of Vietnam since 1940, what would you like to write?
Dạ thưa ông là
Mr. Dang, I am, or I could represent part of your former enemy, and yet here I am in Vietnam, in your house. What feelings do you have towards the former enemy?
Thưa ông Đặng, tôi but this is already the past, we forget it.
Thank you. Will you therefore write in history that the war, in fact, could bring your country and my country more together?
Và như vậy là
Can the veterans of the war from Australia who came to Vietnam, can they do anything more to help your country?
và những cái
You know, Mr. Dang, many Vietnamese living in Australia, they served in the Army of the South. What would you like to say to them?
và có nhiều Việt kiều.
You seem to have a very conciliatory attitude because, you know, war can generate hate between people and countries. And yet what you have spoken about is reducing this hate and coping with this to change the hate to cooperation. What is your attitude towards forgiveness?
Và ông là
There's the steps going up. The people were fighting to get up, to get the last helicopter out that was beamed around the world. This is the Notre Dame replica. That's magnificent. However, Trudeau is pronounced Tuzo Street. This street was called Tuzo Street. We used to know it as Trudeau Street.
General Nguin, thank you for meeting me and helping me so much.
Merci beaucoup pour me rencontrer.
So yes, thank you. You can introduce me to your friend Colonel Truc, and Colonel Truc will take me to the Hobart Woods, and I can meet many soldiers in Hobart Woods who were there in 1966. Yes. Yes. And for you and for me, before in the war, different sides, but now the same room. How do you feel about that? So we went here and here because before in the war I was fighting here. Just saying.
Il était là-bas pendant la guerre. Il était
In Hobart Wood, and this soldiers died, Australian soldiers died.
des soldats.
Em vừa fighting during France and America.
France and America and Australia.
Yeah, and
And Australia.
như là Úc nữa, phải Mỹ không?
These men are all men who are born around this area, and this area is Hobart Woods. In fact, these men were down the tunnels at the time that we were above the tunnels in 1966. And so when we were searching the tunnels, the first layer, they were underneath the tunnels fighting with General Fung's forces here. I would like to ask you all, how do you feel now that I am a former enemy and we were against each other? How do you feel now that I'm in the same room as you?
Wait.
But they,
Okay.
This is the bunker of the Vice Political Commissar. In fact, Tran Bach Dang was the Political Commissar of this particular area. Boy, I'm glad I'm not doing all this again. At the moment, the Cu-Chi tunnels that one can visit are right at this spot here, and this was the headquarters whereby the retaking of Saigon was launched by General Nguin. In 1966, Operation Crimp was conducted in this area here, where the Australians were actually put in as a blocking force, and 173rd Brigade were sweeping down in this direction, plus also one division. When the Australians went into this area was the first area that was the headquarters for the Saigon, Cholon, Jardin area here. Since 1966, the headquarters has in fact been moved many times. Mr. Amptan, I understand that you were a colonel in the Hobo Woods when you were a soldier in 1966 here. To the best of my ability, I really think that this is the place that we were at. You'll see straight in front of us, this is a bomb hole. And then if I pan to the left, this is the clearing, either side of which was the tunnel. Still a clearing. Now it's been planted with a lot of Australian eucalyptus. That hole there leads straight down to the tunnel, or tunnels, and you can see the depression where we would have blowed it up behind that. In that area there. And also behind me, we'll just have a look at that. Right here, this looks like a bomb hole now, but it's on the line of the explosives that we let go.
Also based at Benoit were a troop of Australian engineers under the command of Captain Sandy MacGregor. These courageous sappers developed new techniques to uncover the ingenious tunnel systems of the Viet Cong.
Operation Crimp was the major searching out of the Cholon Jardin headquarters. We came right across their headquarters. And the way that happened was that a couple of infantry guys were wounded, and then their stretcher bearers who went to them were shot dead, and we didn't know where the shots had come from. And then the next thing that happened was that the infantry, after they cleared the area, found this thing that looked like an anthill. And out of this anthill, there's a couple of little slits in it, hollow inside. That's where the shots must have come from. And as a result of that, what happened was that the engineers were called in, we blew it in, and there were the steps of the tunnels going down, right? They're never straight. Every 4 meters, every 5 meters, there's a corner. So you see, what does the front guy do? I mean, does he stick his head around the corner? That's a pretty good aiming mark there, isn't it, you know? So the guys found many, many different ways of getting around the corners. We'd never been trained in this stuff. So yes, I went down them first. And the other thing is, of course, is how can you expect your soldiers to do things that you're not going to do?
It was frightening. You're feeling your way along, you're looking for booby traps, you're prodding, you're listening. It's a collection of things that are going through your mind, just wondering what's next. What's going to happen next. Was the adrenaline is going all the time, and you're thinking, am I going to get out of this one or not?
The sappers were entering a new and dangerous claustrophobic world. Corporal Bob Botel was a professional soldier who led by example. While exploring underground, he became trapped in the narrow confines of a trapdoor and was asphyxiated by smoke.
Bob Botel was a wonderful man. When he died, one of the effects on the troop that it had was that it said, hey, this is real. We can get killed doing this stuff. We searched these tunnels for 5 days. Every night we did not search them. We came back to the surface, and every night we heard the enemy coming back into the tunnels. Right? We could hear them. On one of the occasions, we had to get out of the tunnels pretty quickly because they heard some noise and that sort of thing down there. And what happened was that they saw this bag. The next day, when we went down there to get the bag again, guess what? It was gone. I never ever forced anyone to go down the tunnels. They were always volunteers, always. One day we had this enemy soldier, wounded, with a weapon, disappeared down a hole. But this Lance Corporal Sapper, Sanderson, went down after the soldier. And you know, with smoke, he pulled him out of there and got the weapon off him and got him out of the tunnel and recovered completely himself. And he was claustrophobic. Quite fantastic, isn't it?
Whilst many tons of weapons and supplies were recovered, by far the most important discovery was the 100,000 documents, including assassination lists and photos of the Viet Cong's foreign advisors. On the final day of searching, sappers Les Colmer and Barry Harford discovered a trapdoor leading to another level and to what could have been a major defeat for the Viet Cong.
This particular entrance within the tunnel, and knelt on a wire, and they pulled it up. And as they pulled it up, they heard sounds, and they heard a ticking sound. I'd already told them to come back. And they said, okay, well, let's get out of here. We knew that we had a lot more work to do because our intention was to go down there. That night, we were given the orders to withdraw. So we never went down that hole. Never ever went down that hole. I think it was an opportunity lost. When the general in charge of the tunnels was interviewed, he said that the major tunnel system was well below those fighting tunnels. And he said, if we found them, he said they had 5,000 soldiers down there. Is that the truth or not? I don't know. But he said they had their soldiers down there, and had they been found, he said they would have come up and annihilated everybody. But all the time they were withdrawing, which was really interesting.
Whilst the next troop of sappers benefited from the experience gained by Captain MacGregor's troops, they were soon to be embroiled in one of the disasters of the Vietnam War.